Hello, welcome back. I decided to do another video. This time I'm doing it kind of vlog style. I'm working on my Arthur Morgan piece. First time doing a portrait in a while. I thought I'd work on some skin texture and how to shade an eye. So I've already done a lot of the initial proportions, and I'll be working on the eyebrow area around the eye and the eye itself. Roughly took me 30 minutes to do an area yay big on the drawing, which can be tedious, but I think it's worth every second of it. I'll be showing how to do a little bit of textures, nothing crazy, enough though that your drawings will pop, and some tips as I notice them when I'm drawing. So if you like the content and want to see more of this and some more tips or any textures, things to draw that you can recommend, please let me know and I can make more videos like this in the future. Anyways, please enjoy. When I'm looking at this eye, one of the first things I did was, you see some faint grid lines here. I got a rough proportion of it, simply sketched out where some of the dark and some of the light are. And from that, I had a really good rough idea of, I guess, the shape I wanted of this eye. What I'm going to do is kind of fine tune. So based off the reference photo, this looks a little bit more peaked than a natural eye. This kind of looks like in a weird spot. The iris doesn't quite look right. This is kind of a weird wobbly line. And with shading, you can fix quite a bit of things. So first we'll start by making a nice even line on the top and the bottom. You can do that by being slow and simply trying to just pull it across the paper. Does it look like he's now wearing eyeshadow? Yes it does. That's okay. Arthur Morgan is a man of the people. And if you say anything to him, well, let's just say you won't really be around too long. So that's the general shape of the eye, and I'm pretty happy with it. I am pretty happy with it. So now it's all about getting those darks right. So the eye should actually start a bit farther back and finish right about there. So I'm focusing on getting a dark. So I like that better. It seems to line up with the other eye quite nicely. And now we're going to get our dark layers down. So eventually we want this kind of mess to match this kind of stuff. And how you do that, it's all about layering. So really what I'm going to do is find the darkest spots first and just trace them with the charcoal pencil. This is a 59B, and to be honest, I don't even know what that means. It's just going to be looking for texture, putting in those wrinkles, and once you get a general shape of all this stuff, things will start to really come together. So I've got those eye wrinkles here. They kind of move out and down. We've got some longer ones. And so next you can see there's a bit of a darker area here. So in light little brush strokes, I'm going over it nice and light. So when we shade with the brush, you'll be able to tell that something is there. Here it's nice and dark. We'll do the same thing. And there seems to be kind of a dark spot here, and that's where we'll currently leave the edge of the drawing, because it's kind of a nice break. And then this light area, very lightly, and just slightly dragging the pencil across. And this is, I'd say, the other good area of break, because you get nice and dark here. And it's important, if you have a black spot on your drawing, make it as dark as you can. Because a big, change, a big issue for a lot of artists is simply not having enough contrast in their drawings. Next comes our handy dandy little brush. I'm just going over and lightly brushing those in. The direction I'm not caring too much about yet. Just nice and light. It's a nice base layer. You see it kind of smooths it out already. And there we have it, step one. So you get a rough idea of where the darks are, where the lights are, and we simply go back in and kind of fine tune it a bit more. So where those areas were dark, just going to focus on making them a bit darker. This is just nice and light, because we're going to go over it with a layer of white charcoal. What that's going to do is lighten everything up and smooth everything out real nice. So just like that, we have a rough part of our eye. And now to start working on the details. So zooming in on here, we can see we have a little white spot there, and here that kind of shows where the iris is. Now nice and light along the edge, add in some detail, because we don't want it to be completely black. Always feel free to redarken some areas if you must. Just keep in mind that the moment you brush things, it really starts to smooth things out. So here, these very two bright spots, I'm not going to brush. I'm going to leave them as is, because by brushing them, it'll smooth it out more than we need. Now, I'll do a nice light white along the bottom and the edge of the eye. I'm just going to lightly cover everything. Again, nice and light. It's all about layering. And be careful not to overlap the darkness of the eye. And now you can see, simply by shading that, this is a nice smooth texture, just like an eye should be. Now, let's throw in a couple details. You don't have to be exact, but look at that. We've got a couple veins in here. And this side of the eye, it's a little darker than the other. So by lightly brushing that in, making that part even lighter, blend. That eye's looking pretty good. Now, If your eye's good, but the surroundings aren't, well, you're kind of out of luck. So next thing we'll do, I will work on the lower eyelid. So I know there's hair there, but I ain't gonna do much with them yet. In the darker areas, I'll do even lighter. It's simply kind of a texture thing. The moment you put that white over top, it smooths everything out. Here, where the light's actually going to be, well, lighter, I'll press a little harder with my pencil. So just like that, it took that, what was once that really rough charcoal texture, made it something smooth. It doesn't really look like charcoal anymore. That's why I like the combination of the two. But eyes have texture, and we want that texture. So before we go in about adding it, I can see right here, this general area needs to be lighter. Because we don't want it too flat. You gotta have that nice contrast. That looks a bit better, but you can see how this is still quite a lot flatter than that side. So we'll start this side with the base shading. So this is a bit darker, this area, but now once you add these in, they'll keep being nice and smooth. And this little area is darker. And sometimes if you just want to add a bit of texture but you're not really sure what to do, a couple small squiggles and dots that you just lightly blend over afterwards, it'll do a really good job of getting what you want. Hard lines, you want to press down, well, hard. And then the softer wrinkles that you'll shade in, you want them to be a bit lighter. Yeah, add those dots in. And now, very lightly, I'm just going to touch on these spots here. And do a light pull here to make them nice and soft. The more you blend, the softer it'll be. So the spots that are hard, you don't really want to touch with the brush as much. So that looks a bit better. You know, you got some texture in there, but there's also whites. You gotta add in the white. Nice and light. So above some of the shadows, there's a little line of white. This area down here, there's a lot of scars that are bright white. So that's what I'll focus on. Give them a little tap. You don't want to blend them in too strong, because then they can just lose them. If you do them nice and light, just tap it gently with the brush, and it'll start to work for you. And you get a nice level of detail. Now, we've got lashes to do. From that, simply gonna, I don't use my fingers, I use my wrist to pull back. Just go in the direction. I don't want to blend them because you'll lose those individual hairs. So now I'm pretty happy with this lower area. Now, of course, what's next is the upper. Okay, so we got the general lightness of it, and in looking, this part is quite light. Use a bit of a hard edge to block it out here. There we go. Now, dark layer again. It's all about finding that nice little balance. So the thing with charcoal, if you treat it kind of like painting, all of a sudden shading becomes a lot easier once you realize you can layer, get everything down nice. It's this kind of stuff that'll really start to make or break that extra step in realism if you're trying to hit it. Proportions, shading, texture. So by making this texture a bit rougher, it just makes everything, it takes it that, next little step. Perfect. So next, I'm not going to do the eyebrow. I'm actually going to do the area above, because typically what I've learned from my many mistakes drawing hair appears everywhere. You notice with the eyelashes, I did them last. You draw them first, then all of a sudden you start to shade, things get in the way, and it creates a whole mess. Something I normally just don't want to deal with, so I do hair last. Saves you a headache. Now the areas that are like less obvious, so this little chunk of forehead above the eyes, I will not be putting as much detail into this and following so closely to the reference as I did with the eye, because where is your attention drawn? Your attention's drawn to the nose, your attention's drawn to the mouth, your attention's drawn to the eyes. Never really the forehead. There will still be some detail, but not the make or break detail. If I get the shading right and some textures close, that's all you really need. And I think that's how I save myself time with a lot of drawings. I don't focus on those unnecessary bits. And what I'll do here is kind of block off the top. It's going to be a very dark layer of the hat anyways. The other benefit of this this area, and then the top of the hat is kind of blocks off this entire area, so it makes it a bit more easy to follow. Like, oh, where should I be starting? Where should I be stopping? Just makes it a little bit easier to make that decision. And so I'm drawing some of these in squiggles because once I go back over and shade, it lightens it up, but also keeps some texture kind of in there. And I'm not at this last little step. You never press too quickly unless you want something incredibly smooth. And honestly, for me, I'd say that's good. Final step, eyebrows. So, step 1 to drawing hair is draw hair in the direction it is growing. Sorry, Arthur, you have a bit of a unibrow. That's roughly his eyebrow. We will darken that up. And this is where it's important to go with the direction of the hairs, because some of these areas have light areas around them and we want to keep them light. So, not a perfect eyebrow. That's okay. What do? We layer. So I'll find the really dark spots. There's a couple really dark hairs or spots of the hair. And a lot of that's centered in this just mass at the here. And that'll just give us a bit more oomph. And the second layer smooths things out a lot. I do not like adding the white charcoal layer to this. I feel like it takes away from the eyebrow, but will not make a layer. Some areas you'll add in white hairs. And these help. The thicker ones I'm going to keep in there and help redefine some flow. These lighter ones kind of help break apart the jumbled mass that is his eyebrow hairs. And so then, very lightly, I'll just tap on some of these. I don't want to get rid of too much of them, just to make it look a little natural. And voila! There's that part of the eye done.